Hi everyone, I'm Airier, and today we're going to be finishing Super Eyepatch Wolf's The Bizarre World of Fake Martial Arts. Last time around, I got to seeing an old man get punched in the face by his own delusions crumpling before him, and also getting punched in the face because of his delusions, and then immediately going back to the delusions, making me think, is he insane? Is he a scam artist? Is he insane scam artist? I'm honestly leaning towards the last one, but today we're going to find out more. It's a Super Eyepatch Wolf video. I know what I'm getting into. It's not wrestling, it's not anime, it's going to be pain. There's really only 3 options, and I have chosen pain. This is on me. More importantly, you guys know the deal. There's a link below to the original video. Hit it up. Let's get started.
And so when asking, do these instructors actually believe these moves?
No touch.
Yeah, it's likely they do.
Seriously?
And it's probably a very simple delusion to trap yourself in when it brings following, wealth, and status.
This brought wealth and status? Oh no, it's probably not this, unless this guy actually has so many people paying a lot that he gets money. It's probably something he's about to move on to next. Also, people mentioned in the previous one, there's a lot of studies about how if you convince yourself to act in a way that is crazy long enough, you start to actually develop the type of insanity you do. Counterpoint is if you say like, sup bro, as a joke, eventually it becomes internalized to the fact that you just say, sup bro, and it's not a joke anymore. You just say it. I guess that's how the mind works. You do something long enough, it becomes rote, and I guess mental illness would run into that.
But then what about the students? Why are they behaving like this? And to answer that question, let's look at another phenomenon where groups of people gather in small rooms and act in strange, bizarre ways. Psychologists believe that what draws people into cults isn't a desire for spiritual fulfillment or...
Okay, we're actually going full on cults. I know I said that a lot in the previous video, and apparently I was very right to do so.
Or a search for some higher power, but simple human comfort. A desire that cults manipulate and prey upon, exposing the greatest insecurities of their members and offering them comfort and protection from it. This was the same psychological manipulation that let Charles Manson control his followers, making them act in strange, bizarre ways and even commit murder.
Okay, we're going this far. You know, I knew there was going to be pain, but we're going full on. It's the psychic video all over again. It just, that one you knew it's a scam right off the bat, and now it's just insane people who are dragging other people down because of that.
Same promise of comfort and community that led to the members of the Heaven's Gate cult castrating themselves before committing group suicide.
I was unaware of that first part. They did what? I mean, I got the group part. That is, you know, fucked up. But also they did what prior? I mean, that did what? Also, I know about this one. The guy who had them do it didn't kill himself. He later got a jail sentence. I have no idea if he died in jail or not. I don't want to find out in case he's still alive, and that's just disappointing.
Leaving 39 dead. And next to that, falling over to a hokey technique is nothing. Even look at this footage of the faith healer and alleged con artist, Benny Hinn.
Alleged. The is very important in that.
And you can imagine that if Hinn had marketed himself slightly differently, he too could have been a no-touch master. And that's because it's all the same principle. Put all your faith into this one individual and they will give you the means to guard yourself from the evils of this world.
It's literally the cult, yeah. It's literally, I have the answers, follow me, ignore your eyes. Who are you going to trust, me or your lying eyes? That should never be a sentence uttered in complete sincerity. But that is a sentence that is now being uttered in complete sincerity in regard to this, and I hate every second about this.
And in the case of fake martial arts, that evil is a primary human fear.
Oh god, these fake disarming gun ones. If anyone actually ever tried to use this, they would just die. They're so stupid. Like, ridiculously stupid.
violence from other people. And there's a tremendous amount of comfort in that. The idea that these people can teach you techniques that will make you immune to physical danger, creating a delusion so strong it's led to the kinds of footage we've been looking at this entire video. And this, friends, brings us to the troubling story of James Heydrich.
What happened?
James Heydrich first entered public consciousness after an appearance.
If all of the things before weren't the troubling story, and this is the troubling story. I mean, we've got to freaking Heaven's Gate. We've got to actual cults, and they were just things he threw in. Those weren't the troubling ones? I mean, I'm sure they were troubling, but they were well-known troubling. So this is probably just more niche fuckery.
Appearance on the American TV show That's Incredible, in which Heydrich demonstrated his stunning telekinetic abilities, which allowed him, through psychic force, to turn the pages of a phone book, rotate pencils, and even manipulate dollar bills encased in glass. Heydrich claimed that these were psychic abilities he'd learned from his own...
Stop me if I'm wrong, but this video, yeah, this is 3 years ago. The psychic video was about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago. It's the same damn thing as the psychic video. It's just, this is people specifically tailoring it to martial arts.
Self-taught martial arts, combined with the teachings of a Chinese grandmaster, and also claimed that he could pass these techniques on to children through special training. And so, through...
He targeted children? Also, what is with the stupid-ass bowl cut?
Numerous television appearances and his own innate charisma, Heydrich amassed a large following of around 3,000 students.
This number is disputed, sources vary. I'm hoping it's over-exaggerated here because this is just 3,000 people who are subjected to willful insanity,
making Heydrich's dojo the largest in North America. And one very awkward encounter with the Amazing Randy aside, Heydrich seemed like the second coming of Bruce Lee.
Thank God the Amazing Randy's here. I wasn't sure if he would be in this because, one, I have no idea the time period. Two, the Amazing Randy from the psychic video was literally the one good spot in that entire video. Everything else was horrible, and then Randy was like, this guy's amazing. And people hated him because they wanted to believe the lie. And I'm just looking at this going, no, this is the second best thing in this video. The only reason it's not the best is because we actually got to watch one of these con artists get punched in the face. That is very therapeutic. I recommend doing that more often.
Surrounding himself in a delusion that thousands of people were willing to believe in and pay him for. But in 1982...
Also, am I the only one looking at this guy and going... You look like someone whose job in life is to hold a bottle of wine in a brown paper bag and ask if they got smokes. Do I know who they is? No. Do you get smokes? Also no. But you're the kind of guy who will walk up to someone and go, hey buddy, you got smokes? Not because you can't buy them. You're probably, well, you have a job. It's normal. You have life, whatever. You can go back. It's not really hard. You're just lazy and you don't want to actually take the time to go into a store and buy them. You're just that kind of douchebaggery. This is the face I see here. And maybe I'm a little biased because I know in real life he is that much of a douchebag, a la this entire video. But it's also what I exactly think his face looks like.
That delusion would come crashing down around him.
It actually did crash.
A television special called Psychic Confession. The special was hosted by Danny Corman, an investigative...
They actually had this moment. Oh, sorry. Just watching this stupid scam artist getting a taste of just comeuppance, it doesn't happen nearly enough. But the fact that this is a thing is amazing. He's going to do something stupid after this, isn't he?
Journalist and part-time magician who had discovered how Heydrich was manipulating these objects, and that was through a concentrated stream of air from his nose and mouth.
My God, are you saying things that look like they're being blown by wind are being blown by this? My God. Also, yeah, my lung capacity is shit. Wow, I am shocked.
And so,
the power of his mind
to
breathe out.
Corman asked Heydrich to teach him these techniques and help him harness his own psychic energy. but then, unbeknownst to Heydrich, used the same blowing air trick to move the pencil, and just look at the shock on Heydrich's face as he actually believes he's experiencing genuine psychic abilities, before Corman reveals to the psychic fraud what is actually happening.
Honestly, I would just glue the pencil down just to fuck with someone. But I'm an asshole, I would do that.
And Heydrich's persona of a Zen martial arts master falls away to reveal
he actually kicked over the table.
Disturbed individual.
Oh, I didn't fall over.
As he accounts his childhood of neglect and abuse, how he'd frequently escape into delusional fantasies where ancient Chinese masters would teach him the secrets of their martial arts. If the story ended there, it would be amusing, if kind of sad, but...
Oh no, it gets worse. Of course it gets worse.
Unfortunately, 7 years later, things took a disturbing turn.
How many people died?
As Heydrich was convicted of 11...
Oh, fuck, seriously? Oh,
counts of child molestation. All children he had lured in with the promise of his delusional powers.
So a guy who is intentionally insane as a way to get over problems in his childhood and targeted children was also targeting children, and he's delusional and believes he has power over them and likes other people to believe it as well. This actually makes an unfortunate amount of sense, because the reason behind a lot of these horrible sex crimes is not always just based on arousal. It's based on a power dynamic. It's wanting that power. It's wanting to hurt someone, to have the power to do that to someone. And sometimes it's just people, and it's horrible. But sometimes you specifically want that power over kids. Oftentimes it's fucked up, and I hate this. So the idea that someone who didn't have power wanted it any way possible and was willing to lie and just abuse people's trust would then try and get power over kids in just a really fucked up way to say he had power over his own childhood, even though it's complete bullshit. This is unfortunately a logical way to expect this to go. And I hate this because it makes sense. Doesn't make it any better, though. Is there a video of this guy getting punched in the face? I would like that as well, please.
And then abused.
Only five?
Fake
Only five came forward.
From laughing at a group of people LARPing in a gym to something more sinister. And maybe it's not always as directly predatory as Heydrich, but...
No, I mean, maybe not as directly, but there's also a lot of people who do a lot of fucked up shit. It's a cult. We see where that goes. Super Eyepatch Wolf already pointed that out. We know how fucked up this gets. This is the second most horrible thing in this video.
That doesn't mean they aren't still dangerous in other ways.
Yes.
When I look in the backgrounds of a lot of these videos, I see people. Vulnerable people. I see women, kids, people there to learn to defend themselves.
Who are not going to have self-defense skills, who are going to believe in impossible things, who are going to detach themselves from reality, who are going to then not understand why everyone else looks at them like they have no idea what the fuck is going on, and then separate themselves from their family and rely more on the cult leader, because that's how this works. I didn't realize the first half was the fun one. I thought this would go the usual pathway of, here's the fucked up shit, and then we're going to have the ray of hope at the end. We're not at that, are we? We're just not there yet.
But what they're being sold is an empty lie. Something that would fail them in the potential most dire moments of their lives. And I think there's something...
Oh, see that? Just this moment right here, him falling over.
In the
as soon as it pans back up to her, look at her face. Just watch her face.
Potential most dire moments of their lives. And
that look right there. The sheer incomprehension and stupefaction of someone actually falling over. Because on the one hand, the thought process has to be, That didn't work. Why are they doing that? Followed by, I did that. And I hate it because it's all a lie, and they're being convinced of the lie in person. It's a scam. It's a scam that just makes people's brain break at the end. If you convince yourself of impossible things, suddenly possible things don't make as much sense anymore.
And I think there's something really disgusting about that. So, at best, fake martial arts are a dangerous, hollow fantasy. But at worst, they're a way to sell a delusional narrative and prey upon innocent people. And so, to end this video, I want to talk about one of those narratives, but one that's playing out right now and on a national level.
Oh, are you serious? I'm assuming by the characters this is in China, so at least there's a little distance, but this isn't going to make it any better, is it?
I want to talk about the story of Xu Xiaodong.
What?
Xu Xiaodong is a Beijing-born radio DJ and mixed martial arts practitioner who, unwittingly, has become the...
Wait, what does that say about him there? MMA in China, very good in a few years before... Was very good in a few years before 2015. Was is past tense, so what happened after 2015?
Has become the center of a massive cultural war in China. One that began in early...
I'd like to point out, culture wars anywhere else is people disagreeing and sometimes being assholes about it to each other. A culture war in China has a lot of different subcontext, as in a cultural revolution in China involved actually killing people. This is, he's probably been disappeared, huh?
Early 2017, a time when the Chinese government was deep into a movement known as the Great Rejuvenation of the Chinese nation. A cultural campaign designed to instill national patriotism in the youth of China. And one of the ways it did this was through the propagation of traditional Chinese martial arts. Through means like making mastery of Tai Chi mandatory for graduating certain Chinese high schools, as well as airing television specials that showed Tai Chi as a way to unlock a near mystical power, with Tai Chi masters out wrestling judo black belts, dodging the thrusts of professional level fencers, and blowing back group...
Okay. That is... I can't say about anything else, but if you look at this, dodging the thrusts... I know enough about fencing because I was admittedly a bad one. This person wasn't even aiming for them. He was aiming for the shoulder and he moved it back, but the entire arm just... This is so... He pulls back. The guy starts moving. He aims for the other arm. He pulls it out of the way. What weapon is this? Oh, it's an epee. Specifically, there's 3 different styles of fencing weapons. There's an epee, a saber, and a foil. The foil is a piece of shit, and I hate anyone who does it. I'm joking. I don't actually hate anyone. I just have great disappointment. Foil has rules and regulations. The saber is you run and slash at someone, and you just run past them and start over. And the epee is actually using a sword, and it's fun because when I was playing to you, the entire rules of the entire sword fighting system called epee. You hit your opponent. You don't hit the floor. I'm glad... I can't speak today. I'm glad we have now had this conversation. That's how it works. This is an epee. It has a big rounded bell curve without anything around it. This is also really dumb because the guy going for the shoulder is stupid because he was leaning forward. Going for the elbow isn't bad, but it's also a moving target that's easy to pull out of the way. Just hit him in the face or the chest where he's not moving nearly as much.
Level fencers and blowing back groups of attackers with a single powerful movement. I have actually done a year of Tai Chi and found it a really great form of soft exercise.
Yeah, it's fine. And if you speed it up, it is still a martial art. But...
one with 0 application to actual fighting, but hey, that's not why I was there, and more important...
Really? It actually has 0 application? I thought it was basically similar motions, but slowed down to make them more meditative. Huh.
Importantly, not what my teacher sold it as. But that wasn't the case with these specials. One in particular...
I'm sorry, did he just literally do nothing and they rolled over backwards? It can't be that stupid,
not what my teacher sold it as. But that wasn't the case with these specials.
He just went like this and they rolled over. And this guy forgot to go with the program. That's why he's probably staring. I was like, you're supposed to fall over, dude.
One in particular starring the Tai Chi master Wei Lei. Wei Lei was a huge believer in the combat prowess of Tai Chi, stating he could defeat any mixed martial arts fighter and even break a rear naked choke with one hand.
Ah. And we just talked about the MMA fighter who was going to call him on it. Except unlike in the previous ones, this happens in China where they're trying to intentionally push that, and this guy will be a Chinese national who's probably going against the narrative. Oh. Oh, this does not end well, does it?
Much to the ire of anyone who has ever been in a rear naked choke.
Was that Conor McGregor in a rear naked choke? Damn.
Enter Xu Xiaodong.
Run into problems with Chinese authorities. Yeah, now we are just waiting. He definitely disappeared.
After Xu Xiaodong voiced his skepticism in Wei Lei's claims on his radio show, he had his home address doxed by the followers of the Tai Chi master, endangering both him and his family. Furious, Xu Xiaodong traveled to Wei Lei's training hall and challenged the Tai Chi master.
Training hall's probably in China, and the authorities probably won't like someone questioning the official line, even if the official line is very stupid.
To prove his claims in an exhibition match. And in front of a crowd of onlookers,
he knocks him out.
The 40-year-old MMA fighter pummeled the Tai Chi master in less than 30 seconds. Xu would later refer to this match as the fight that shook the heavens, and it did. China was left in shock by the match's outcome.
Yeah. I'm surprised they were allowed to report on this. This is the kind of thing where I'd actually assume, because this is being done based on the stated aim of the government, this is the kind of thing I'm assuming those are not articles you can find anymore inside China.
But rather than validating Xu, both the martial arts community and the Chinese media were incensed by Xu's actions.
And by incensed, they very much mean if they are not incensed, then someone is suddenly going to become very curious about why they're not incensed. And questions will be asked like, do you like having family? If you don't, keep doing this. We'll fix that.
Accusing him of attacking China's national heritage, Xu receiving over 100 challenges from enraged martial arts masters.
I mean, if he took up any of them, they would all get their asses kicked because they're probably not very good at what they do.
But by Xu's own admission, he himself is nothing special. He's just a mediocre MMA fighter past his prime.
But an actual fighter as opposed to a self-deluded con artist who is cashing in on a government that wants people to have national pride in random bullshittery. Because that's a thing that does happen when you push a line of people to believe in something that's not real. It's easier to believe in something that's not real. And considering how the Chinese government seems to work, oftentimes that does also come down to say something, put it out there, not actually understand the consequences, and then only find out when it's too late. Because it doesn't really matter to you, so you don't really find out right away. Because there is a massive divide between what happens and what people actually know sometimes. And then not caring because fuck it.
But despite this, it's obvious when listening to him speak that he has a profound love of mixed martial arts, which is a system of fighting mixing all styles together and discarding anything that isn't directly effective, creating a complete all-rounded system of punching, kicking, and grappling. But in China, MMA is still viewed by many as a vulgar, crass form of fighting, vastly inferior to the traditional Chinese martial arts styles like Tai Chi, Wing Chun, and the various forms of Kung Fu.
In an artistic sense, MMA is not. In a cultural sense, it's way too new to have that impact. In an actual able to fight sense, yeah, that's what it does. It actually fights. Now, if you're looking at a cultural sense, I can understand why they're not pushing it because it doesn't have that impact. It might feel too Western. It might feel too un-Chinese. Even if they made their own sub-variant, that probably would be the biggest way to bring it into the mainstream. And even then, it would probably be specifically that variation, just mixing in those specific aspects and shunning the rest. But even then, that would be crippled because the concept of it is you do what works. And if you're only doing a few things that work, you're only doing a few. The interchange of politics and intentional mental illness. Lovely.
And this is where Shu's issues begin. He believes that traditional Chinese martial arts have become a mass con.
Yes!
To brainwash people.
If you do it for exercise, if you do it for meditation, they're perfectly good. And honestly, just getting out and moving is helpful. If you're doing it because this is how you show patriotism and love of the country, and if you don't love this, you don't love this country, that kind of equivalency is always bullshit. And anyone who spouts it, sometimes they believe it, and a lot of the times they're making money off it.
Over-reliance on rigid movement patterns with little relevance to actual fighting. And while I love Kung Fu for reasons we've already talked about, it's hard to argue with Shu's claims considering how poorly traditional Chinese martial arts have fared against other, more modern fighting styles. But to Shu, where
that was a lot of traditional things. Now, I mean, if you get to the level of mastery where you're just really fast and just really good so you can react, you can make it work. But that's the level of mastery that mostly only exists in media, not in reality. Granted, if you're good enough a fighter at anything, you're good enough a fighter at anything. But granted, at that point, you wouldn't be doing MMA. You'd be showing off just your awesome fighting skills. And if it sounds like I'm mocking them, admittedly, anyone who can actually do it is pretty cool. But it's a completely different usage case, and that does matter.
The real hypocrisy lies is in how traditional Chinese martial arts have been protected and promoted in China, meaning people like Wei Lei can make claims to having tremendous power without ever having to prove it, and then go on to sell the false promise of that power to innocent people, all under the guise of national patriotism. And so, with the intent of showing the people of China a genuine means to grow stronger, Shu began taking on these Chinese masters, and a lot of these matches play out the same. The match begins, the strikes of Shu's opponent are shown as weak and ineffective, before they are bloodied and beaten by Shu.
Oh no. Honestly, I'm like, the reaction against him, that's more than I thought would be allowed to be covered. But now he's making a spectacle of it. And while he's doing it for admittedly the right reasons to show something's wrong, he's couching it as they're lying, not this is the real patriotism. And that would be very important because he's setting himself up as opposed to the government. In China, I mentioned before, cultural conflicts are much more deadly sometimes. There are a lot of examples of that. And I don't mean in the past, I mean in recent memory. You can look it up. It's depressing. I don't want to get into it. But with how it's being framed so far, he needs to specifically walk that line of not challenging the current leadership, who are incredibly jealous of their power and are also aware that if it's ever tempered, if it's ever weakened, their rivals will disappear them. Admittedly, it's why a lot of people are jealous with power, because the alternative is literally not pleasant. And he's setting himself up as someone like, they're wrong. This is a scam, but it's a scam that's being promoted by these people. So indirectly, you're insulting them and weakening their power. So they have to then come down on you. And since you're making a spectacle of it, they will not take this. Well, this is going to go so bad, isn't it? Not for the
as these fights went on, something strange started to happen. You might notice that in this fight, Shu is wearing this grotesque face paint, and that's because it was dictated to him that the fight wouldn't be allowed to take place unless he wore Chinese clown makeup and fought under the name Shu Donghua, which...
Okay, so they're making him a joke to send some kind of credibility to the opponent by making him ridiculous. It won't work, though, because if the clown beats you, that's even more embarrassing.
Which translates as Shu Wintermelon, insulting the guy's weight. And if Shu seems especially angry in this match, it's because before the fight, his Chinese social credit score was lowered to the point that he was no longer able to use air travel or high-speed trains, forcing him to take a 36-hour hard-seat train ride to even attend the fight. And you might ask why Shu is being treated like this, and the answer is
power dynamics, challenging the people who put something in place that they didn't understand and they don't care to learn about.
Is that the Chinese government really wishes he wasn't doing what he is, and so a campaign.
And because they take a lot of actions based on just get it done, as in their entire housing structure right now is they build cities because they have quotas to build cities. Do they need them? No! There's entire cities that are empty because they need to build it. They need to make the quota. They need to show the GDP. But that didn't actually matter because the people under it didn't care about making it useful. They just needed to hit the quota. So they did the quota and not all the legwork to make things work. It's actually a massive issue, and one of the things that's been coming back to bite, sorry, I was about to say Japan, but biting China in the ass because their GDP has been lowering to, admittedly, still a huge number, but dictating what you need to get as an outcome and not reaching in an organic way does have problems. So in all likelihood, the traditional things he's fighting against were dictated as, well, they're traditional, throw it out there. And that was more or less out there. And then these are unintended side effects that are hurting the Chinese government, because that's kind of how things sometimes go. It could also be one of them was actually a believer in it and they really pushed it. I don't know. That would be incredibly personal information, well beyond anything I would care to learn, because that would be in the weeds so far. It would be depressing to even try.
Campaign of harassment, censorship, and humiliation has begun against him. He's had his gym closed down, his social media accounts deleted, he's been forced to apologize, he's been fined tens of thousands of dollars, forcing him to move out of his home, his fights have been shut down by the police, he's been accused of being a spy, and has even been harassed and ostracized.
The fact that that's the extent of it so far is actually surprising. I thought he would have been disappeared by this point. Just randomly not aware of what happened to him. Because that happens to people. I think it was the head of Alibaba recently had that happen to him. Could be mistaken, but it does happen. If someone gets powerful enough, if they get enough notoriety, it does happen.
This clip showing a group of 8 Tai Chi students blocking Shu from leaving his hotel. Shu's family have even been harassed in their home, with Shu himself suffering public assaults. But the most painful blow for Shu came when he was disowned by the martial arts gym he taught at for 20 years. All things he publicly spoke on in an emotionally charged live stream as the 40-year-old mixed martial artist breaks down in tears, recounting the isolation and torment he and his family have had to endure.
我20年待的地方说没就没了。我在我自己的微博上 我写我很光荣，我是什刹海的教练。
This all came to an absurd climax when, in 2018, Shu faced his most high-profile opponent yet, the Wing Chun master Ding Hao. The fight received...
If it comes to a climax, this is probably the breaking point where he takes the fall just to make it end. Because the pressure worked. And I'm only hoping that's the outcome, because if he wins this, it's probably going to look even worse, and I'm hoping he's still alive.
Massive media coverage, with many seeing this as the moment that Shu would finally get his comeuppance for spitting in the face of Chinese traditional
I hope
values.
He wins,
But to Shu, this was his biggest opportunity to prove that his claims were legitimate. And so, in front of an audience of millions, Hao begins the fight with a furious attack on Shu.
Yeah, at least he's moving
and
fast.
From here, the Wing Chun master is repeatedly pummeled and hurled to the ground, each time saved by the referee. And finally,
the referee actually just... I'm sorry. Wow.
The ground, each time
this right over here.
Referee.
Next one. Yep.
And
he actually dodges in to make sure he can't get another hit in. Well, I don't have to worry about him giving into pressure, at least. That's good. But at the same time, if it's a climax, that means things break after this.
Finally, after his 6th knockdown with 40 seconds left in the first round, The bell rings and the fight is signaled to a close.
I'm assuming they say that the Wing Chun master won?
And in what has to be one of the most embarrassingly farcical decisions in martial arts history, the match is declared a draw. I don't even really know what to say at this point. Howe later made the excuse that the studio didn't give him enough rice before the fight, resulting in his poor.
I'm sorry. This implies that he would actually fight on a full stomach. If he hits your gut, you just pop. I mean, maybe that's just me, but every time I went into any match of anything on a full stomach, I was slower because the blood was being directed to the gut. And it was horrible. He's an excuse. I mean, yes, obviously it's just an excuse for the obvious bullshit. But that's a stupid one because anyone who knows anything is going to be like looking at this going, you're a dumbass. Granted, anyone who knows anything will also at this point know to not say a word for their own sake.
Poor performance. And Shu is still taking on martial arts masters, remaining undefeated after 17 fights.
Oh, thank God he wasn't disappeared. I was actually unironically worried about that. And for some reason, if the comments include, yeah, by the way, we haven't seen him in a while, I won't be surprised. I'll just be very disappointed.
And continues to endure a campaign of harassment and humiliation. I love martial arts. I have done for a very long time. For me, stepping out onto the mat and letting life's troubles fall away as you give your all against a skilled opponent, that's become a tool for me to deal with anxiety, depression, all kinds of shit. But I think even more than that, martial arts are a way for people to become more than what they are. Here's a little girl obliterating a tree with just her fists. Here's a guy
The fuck?
Here's a little girl obliterating a tree with just her fists.
I mean, yeah, it's a very dry tree, but I don't fucking care. That is terrifying. Goddamn, lady. 1, well done. 2, goddamn.
Here's a guy tapping out an opponent twice his size. Here's a girl doing the same thing. With the right training and technique, martial arts can give strength to just about anyone. And I think that's a really beautiful thing. But when that idea becomes distorted and manipulated, it opens up a dangerous world of delusion, trapping people, cutting them off from genuine growth.
Not to mention, if you make people believe impossible things, it's easier to believe further impossible things, and your mind starts to break down because you lose touch with reality. You can think yourself into mental illness. And isn't that a sentence that I hate saying and believing?
And to me, that's the opposite of what martial arts should be.
That was difficult. I mean, on the one hand, I liked seeing the end with Shu really going all out, sticking to his guns, not giving in to the pressure, and just standing up for this is true and you are scamming people. But because of the associated power dynamics, I hate seeing him screwed over because of that. And Aaron already said it, and I'm going to say it again. I fully expect someone in the comments to mention that in the few, 3 years? Yeah, the 3 years since this video came out, something probably changed. It probably got worse. I'm not looking forward to that. I'm getting myself ready for it, but I'm not looking forward to it. And if for some reason nobody does that, I will thank you in advance for not writing that because it's just a little less pain I have to deal with right away. It's the psychic video. It's all the psychic video. And this hurts. Because it's willful delusion, targeting kids, actually targeting kids by one specific asshole, and just making people believe impossible things, to make them, give them might, give them power, to have power over them, specifically kids from one specific castle, and just, this is like a documentary of a very niche select people who are making the world worse. And I hate it. I'm glad to find it. I think Super Eyepatch Wolf did a great job showing it, but god damn if this hurts. So I'm going to go and pet some kittens. They've been quiet, and now I'm worried because they were very rowdy earlier. So I need to go check on that. And maybe patch a wall. Hopefully it's a joke, but there's a good chance it's not. Yeah. Otherwise, you guys know the deal. Link below video. Hit it up. And I'll see you in the next one. Adios.